Hello, the title of this video is Coal Mine Ventilation, and the mine that we're going to ventilate has 5 entries. We're going to use exhaust ventilation and split air. So here is a picture of the mine. It's a very small mine, only 5 entries and not advanced too far in. So the first thing we have to do is put a fan on it, and I put the fan in the number 5 entry, and it's an exhausting fan. So now we'll have to identify the entries, and our entries are either going to be intakes, returns, or belts. Every entry is something. So using split ventilation, the air is going to go in the middle, come out each side as return air. So number 1 entry is return. Number 5 entry is a return. Number 2 is an intake, and number 4 is an intake, and that leaves the belt in number 3 as shown. So every entry is something. It's either intake, return, or belt. So now I have all 5 of my entries identified as being something. So when I turn the fan on with exhausting ventilation, every portal the air will enter, every portal. So I don't want it going in number 1. I want it to come back out number 1. So I need to put a stopping in the number 1 entry. So now I have return air needs to go out of the mine from number 1 entry. So it has to go out the fan in number 5. So it goes through the crosscuts here to the fan. But in number 2 entry, it's an intake. So I have in this intersection, return and intake air meeting each other, and they cannot touch each other. They cannot mingle with each other. So what I need here is an overcast. And what this looks like at the mine would be this. So I have the overcast built. Return will go over the top, and the intake will go into the mine. So then the return goes over, and now it gets in the crosscut from 2 to 3, and now it's going to hit the belt, and there I just need another overcast. So the return will go over top of the belt, and then it will be in the crosscut from 3 to 4, and then I have intake going in number 4, so I need an overcast there. So now this return air can travel from number 1 to number 5 and get out of the mine. So the next thing I have to do is isolate the belt. I have to box check the belt, regulate the belt to the return. So to isolate it between number 2 entry intake and number 3 belt, I'll put a stopping and a stopping. On the other side, between the number 3 belt, entry belt, and the number 4 entry intake, I need stoppings there as well. So now it's isolated. I need box checks on each end. So at the tailpiece, I put a box check there. And at the mine, that's typically just a curtain hung across the belt at the tailpiece. And at the portal area, I put a box jack. And at the portal, it's typically a stopping with a hole in it that the belt runs through. So even though they're different things at the mine, different items that are used as a box jack, but we will use the same symbol on the map. Also, I need to regulate, put the belt into the return. So I put a regulator there. And then I show that the belt air flows down the belt in the outbound direction. So what does this look like at the mine? So it looks like this. So I have my overcast, I have the belt here, and the red air, the red represents the belt air coming out. And I would just knock a couple cinder blocks, 1 or 2 typically, out of this head wall, and that becomes your regulator. So the belt air will flow down, go out this hole here, which again could be 1 or 2 cinder blocks taken out, and the belt air would enter the return at that point. So my belt's done, it's box checked, isolated, regulated the return. So now I have to separate, unlike air, so between 1 and 2 where we have return and intake, I need to separate those with stoppings. So I show those here. And then I get up to the face area, and the crosscut that's immediately out by the last open crosscut right here, if you can see my mouse pointer, I can put a curtain there. So I have a curtain, which is a temporary control that blocks the air. So on the other side, between intake and return, between 4 and 5, I do stoppings. And then out by the last open crosscut, in this crosscut, you can see my mouse indicator. I can put a curtain there. Now I have all my intake up into this area in by the tailpiece, but I want it to go in the last open crosscut at one place only. So I'm going to block off 2 and 4 and let all the air come to number 3, and then it gets in the last open crosscut and splits. And I like to show those splits in the crosscut and show the direction of air. So from 3, it's going to go to 2, and from 2 to 1. And then coming back to 3, it's going to go from 3 to 4 and 4 to 5. So you can see what the air does in the last open crosscut. Now, I have another symbol that's going to show what the air does in the face, and I'll just call those direction of air indicators, and I'll show those in by the faces. So in number 1, this direction of air indicates that the air is going to go up the right hand rib, across the face, and out the left rib. In number 2, it does the same thing. Number 3, it can go either way. It does not matter. You just pick which way you want it to go, left to right, right to left. And on this map, I've actually went from left to right. And number 4 has to go from left to right, and number 5, left to right. So now I'll show what the air does in the faces. That helps me put my curtains in. So here in number 1, I know that to return air with exhausting ventilation, the curtain's going to be on the return side. So I'm going to put a line curtain here. Well, this curtain's just in space. It's not doing anything, so I need to tie it into a corner with a check curtain. So I do that. So the air hits the curtain, has to go up the right-hand rib, across the face, and out into the return. In number 2, the direction of air indicator indicates the return side is on the left side, so the curtain goes on the left side, and then I tie it into a corner there. In number 3, we're going to switch because the air is going the opposite direction. It's going to go to the right. So in number 3, the line curtain goes on the right-hand side, tied into a corner here. In number 4, the curtain goes on the right-hand side, tied into the corner here. And in number 5, the curtain goes on the right-hand side, tied into the corner here. So now we have all the faces ventilated. So the only thing we have to do now is this split here in number 3. If you can see my mouse pointer, the air is going to split here. Part of it's going to go to the left, part of it's going to go to the right. Well, what controls that is the amount of resistance that the air would encounter as it leaves the mine. And it's going to try to pick the easiest way out. So to make it do what I want, I need regulators. So I'm going to put a regulator in number 1, entry return, and number 5, entry return. So now with these regulators, they're an artificial resistance placed across the return airway. I can control the air, make it do what I want. I can distribute it in number 3 to meet the requirements of each individual split of air. So now this map is ventilated correctly, and again, this would be the same principles that you would want to use on the West Virginia Mine Foreman certification test. For more videos like this, visit the website wvminetraining.com. Thank you.